We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get in my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win. We as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth. So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
I have to say this without getting emotional, but I'm very proud of my husband. And I know many of you are too. You have worked so hard. And I know a lot of you have seen, obviously, his videos on TikTok and all the stuff he does on campus, but no one gets to see him from my angle except for myself and our children. And the sacrifices that he made this year, he's amazing. I'm very blessed.
And I would not have been able to do any of it without Erica. And that's the real truth. I'll tell you what. You are here as a grassroots response to the top-down revolution happening in this country. I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America.
The media said that Turning Point could never run a ground game. They weren't experienced. They didn't know Charlie, right?
This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. This generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years, and the numbers show it. What young people especially are screaming at is they say, give me a structure that I can live my life by. And especially with young men, more challenging of them, more saying, you know what, honestly, I'm not gonna talk down to you. Stop being a boy and become a man. You wanna learn what that means? Come to church and I'll tell you what it means to become a man. Because we have the greatest story ever told. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day, because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
Now, if you followed me over on X, you'll know I didn't take it particularly well. And I think people don't quite understand just how much I keep to myself. Because I'm far too outspoken for my own good. And by saying that, I don't necessarily just mean that I have opinions that are, broadly speaking, politically incorrect, because even to an extent I don't share those nearly enough. But I don't think they quite understand how much about myself personally I hold back. Because I portray the sense of being an open book, but am I really, when I, more often than not, keep far too much of my belief to myself, and that belief pertains primarily to my faith. I don't think it's useful for what I'm focused on to have the primary focus of what I'm doing be on Christianity, on the Bible. But I certainly shouldn't shy away from incorporating it where it's appropriate. from being blunt and steadfast in my faith. That's just what I should be doing. But I say this because I don't for a second believe that Charlie could have possibly comprehended just how much of an impact he actually had. The fact that throughout the Western world, and even in countries that you may not necessarily even consider Western, people were in mourning. Congregations came together and honored him. People returned to church for the first time in years, decades even. Some people went to church for the first time. Because that's the sort of impact he had as an individual. Because people listen to someone and they see enough of that person to understand what they're all about. There was never any doubt to anyone who engaged with Charlie Kirk's content in good faith, with an open mind, that he was one hell of a human being. That he was as good-natured a person as you could ever hope to meet. That his intentions were always out of love and out of a desire for everyone to be the best versions of themselves, both for their families, but for their country, for their nation, for their society. But ultimately, that what trumped everything else was for every single person to find salvation. That's what drove him. And what better way for people to find salvation than to help reshape the country in a way that reshape the world, even, because it extends far beyond the US. To reshape the world in such a way where people are just naturally drawn to Jesus rather than moving away, rather than having this self-interested view of the world which is simply at odds with everything. Now, admittedly, I've been very stop-start in recent months. Be that in my personal life, be that on YouTube, even on X, but also in my faith. But the very nature of Charlie's impact meant I was in church on Thursday night, mourning. I was the quietest I've been in years. I was speechless. I struggled to really engage with where I was at. There was this deep sorrow that it felt like someone in my own family had been just taken. Now, I don't know about you, but no fascist would ever have that impact on me. So I was in church Thursday night, and I was in church this past Sunday. As were countless others. Yet for the first time, for the millionth time, for the first time in a long while. Now, I'm going to take you on a journey. And I don't do this sort of thing too often, but I'm going to take you on a little journey. And it's going to be very church focused for a moment, so if you're not into that, I'd encourage you to stay, but whatever. I'm going to take you on a journey, and it relates to my current church, but it illustrates how what's happened here has reminded me of the importance of these particular moments, and that I need to stop running away from them just because I don't feel like I'm worthy, that I don't feel like I deserve anything. So, when I was 12 or 13, I'm going to say it was 13 because it seems to ring the most bells, I first went to the church that I'm currently at. And it wasn't as someone who was going to their church to join their church, it was as part of my own church, which was smaller in my community. And we were attending their global, youth event. And I'm a Pentecostal, so this may not resonate with all Christians out there, but I was prophesied over at that time. This is more or less what we believe to be God speaks to an individual, but specifically someone who has that close relationship, who is fulfilling a particular role within, filling a particular role on behalf of God on earth, has a relationship to a level where they will get these moments just randomly. These random thoughts will be drawn to a particular person. All of these things will just come to their mind. They've never met them before, but they'll be able to pinpoint and figure out all of these things which, you couldn't even assume. You couldn't even just get a lucky guess. They are so accurate. It's unbelievable. Now, I found myself in the light, let's say. And as a particular pastor is praying for me, he just starts stating that he sees something, he envisions something for my future, which stuck with me that weekend in particular, but that I've always remembered since. That that my plan, or that I will find myself in life speaking to people around the world. Even in a capacity as a leader, I will show leadership material and utilize that ability as a leader to speak to people around the world for the better. Something to that extent. That it would be my purpose to do that. That would be a journey that I'll find myself on. Now, I never really knew how that would be. For a while I pondered, maybe I should go to Bible college or something. Now, my life's complicated enough where that was never really an option. Certainly would be now, but I don't think that's the path that I'm being set on. Now, if that was just a one-off, I would have, even as of right now, maybe have just been like, whatever. But before I get on to how this has progressed to now, I want to go over a few simple facts about myself. I'm an extremely socially anxious individual. I lack confidence like you wouldn't believe. I'm very outspoken behind a camera because I'm in a room by myself. I can get my views across behind a camera as easily as I do because I'm in a room by myself and I don't have to worry. I don't even like the idea that sometimes my neighbors could hear me. That's how anxious I am at the thought of others being able to hear me. I'm a very socially anxious person, and it's something that I've worked on improving. But I can't go to church really without being arguably the most awkward looking individual around. Because I just don't really know how to talk to people all that well, no matter how many times I try. Once I'm in the middle of a conversation, I'm typically okay, but I never know how to approach a conversation or end one. It's not really skills I ever properly developed. So the idea that I am a particularly good option at leading has always kind of been to me. But when I have found myself somehow being in leadership positions, I've taken to it rather easily. I've also found that I'm undoubtedly someone who has conviction. I have a particular view and I will be able to defend that view whether it's the last thing I do. And I feel like if I'm confident in something, I can express that in a manner which people can get behind, that people can listen to, resonate with, and in some respects be inspired by, because I know some people have genuinely had kind words to say about what I do, and I'm not doing it nearly enough, and that needs to change. But that gets me to my next point. After that time I'd been prophesied upon as like a 13-year-old, I never went back to that church again, primarily because it wasn't my actual church. I never went back to that church again until I was 21 or 22. And at that point, I'd been out of just church in general for many, many years. So I went back to that church to reignite something. And it was in the following months where once again I was prophesied upon. And whilst it wasn't as in depth, again it kept hitting on the leadership. That my potential was there, I never had faith in my own potential, but that I needed to trust in it. That I needed to utilize all of it. I needed to stop preventing myself from achieving what I know I'm ultimately capable of. And most of this is, of course, all self-inflicted. I don't live up to my potential because I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. I don't have confidence in engaging in a social environment because I simply don't have the confidence that I have anything of value to contribute to any particular conversation or individual. Now, I know that's rubbish, but tell that to my brain when I'm 1 foot away from someone and I really want to talk to them but don't. The point being that there was a pattern, there was always an understanding that there was more to me than I would ever admit. That I was always destined to do more than I'm allowing myself to. So allow me to bring this back to Charlie, because he's the important one here. In my spare time, when I'm disconnected from most things, if there was any individual that helped me feel centered, that helped make me feel grounded, and gave me hope, and even some degree of confidence in myself, that would be Charlie Kirk. Now, I think that no one, especially no one of the Christian faith, will say that Charlie did not achieve what his purpose on this earth was. He achieved it and then some. And it's an absolute tragedy that he wasn't able to just continue adding to it. Because say that he's achieved what he was put on this earth to achieve or not, he could still have contributed so much more. Now, if someone who was already achieving as much as he was is going to be taken from this earth by someone who fundamentally has nothing of value to provide, at least at present, whilst they are thinking the way they are, then why should I let my own, frankly, self-loathing prevent me from achieving my full potential? Because I don't hide the fact that I've got a past that absolutely no one would be proud of. I've got a past which frankly disqualifies me from the public square. But why should I care? The only people that I seem to run into that give a damn about my past have far less of value to contribute to this world than I do. Isn't that ironic? And I don't say that out of arrogance, because as you can tell, I don't have particular confidence in myself. But I need to start finding that confidence. I need to start relying on support from others and from God, frankly, to get that confidence and to start doing what I should be doing and stop wasting away when I have actual value to contribute. So I don't care anymore. Every single one of you ideologically captured leftists, every single one of you so-called liberals, every single one of those people who even call themselves a conservative, and they will shit on me. I don't care. Do it. Drag my name through the mud as many times as you like, because if your focus is to drag me through the mud instead of actually doing something valuable, then so be it. Because I dragged my own face through the mud. You doing it a few more times isn't really going to do much, is it? Certainly not going to do anything valuable for those that you're trying to talk to. That you're trying to warn about. Oh, be careful of that Eric guy. He's a horrible person. How dare Eric be where he was as a teenager, completely disconnected from it all. How dare he now, in his mid-20s, promote moral goodness, defend human life? How dare he? How dare he say it's wrong to be self-interested and envious? How dare he? How about this? How dare you? How dare you, for caring so much about yourself and the maintaining of your godless ideology, that you would attack someone simply because their past was worse than yours? I don't care if you think my past is the most evil thing you've ever seen in your life. If I'm currently, in the present day, committed to a life significantly of more value than yours, look at yourself in the mirror. If I'm willing to put myself out there and take the hate from you, while you are a degenerate, while you show no morality, no human decency, whilst you celebrate the murder of people because they have the wrong political opinions, how dare you? It's not a matter of how dare me. You can condemn my past all you like. I could not care. I condemn my own past. I condemn myself every single day. But should that just mean that I don't provide the value that I'm ultimately capable of providing? No, because that would be selfish. That would say that my own personal loathing of my life decisions means that no one should benefit. No one should benefit from my experience. No one should benefit from what I have to offer because of my own self-loathing. That is selfish. And it's selfish to oppose what I believe in so much that you would try and take that away from others. Allow them to make their own choices, thanks. Allow them to decide whether or not your life of godless degeneracy is better than a life of pure moral value. How's that? How's that? Because I'll tell you this right now. You can dress up as a furry as much as you like. You can put on the opposite sex's clothes as much as you like. You can sleep with enough of the people of the same sex as you as much as you like. I couldn't care less. But what's better? A life where you're so miserable that absolutely everything is centered around being a victim related to your identity? Or a life that is so full of hope that you have this beautiful relationship with Jesus? You have a beautiful relationship with your community who doesn't judge you just because you're still sinning every single day, but trying your best not to. A community which ultimately wants everyone to do well, even if they don't necessarily agree on how to get there. Ultimately, there's a very, very big difference between Christians, and I always struggle with the idea that anyone that's a Christian isn't a conservative. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me, but that's for another day. But how anyone that's a Christian, how even anyone that's a conservative, how the lives that they generally live, how on earth can your life of godless degeneracy be better than that? And people with an open mind, people who aren't made up, people who listen to the type of garbage and frankly evil that leftists have to offer, compared to those of us who believe in God, who push conservative ideals. Anyone who's on the fence and listening to both sides will realize very, very quickly just how demonic you are and how hopeful we are. So, I want to thank Charlie because he's given me the courage to actually say that and post it online. And that's the impact, that's the radicalization that this event has had on people around the world. There are the radicals, and then there are those who have been radicalized to be brave, to have courage. And you know what sticks with me more than anything else that I've seen with respect to clips of Charlie? It's He wanted to be remembered for his courage in his faith, and that's exactly what he will be remembered for. And the silver lining, the ultimate silver lining, is that he is with Jesus. He is where he deserves to be.